Good day, fellow STEM students. Mr. Angel Toledo assigned to do a task of interviewing some of professionals. So with that, let's get started.
But first, let me tell you about what is a professional. A professional is a member of a profession or any person who works in a specific profession activity. The term also describes the standard of education and training that prepare members of the profession with the particular knowledge and skills necessary to perform their specific role within that profession.
Thank you for allowing us to conduct this interview.
No problem.
My first question is, what is your profession?
I am a licensed professional teacher.
And how did you become a professional?
I graduate with a bachelor degree of Bachelor in Physical Education, major in Sports and Wellness Management. I studied for 4 years, and then after I graduated, I took the board exam, and then I passed my first board exam. I have a license.
Our second question is, what are the challenges you face before you become a professional?
There's a lot of challenges, especially if you're a student. So one of the challenges, I guess, I would only say the biggest challenges is when you are far away with your family. Because I studied in Legazpi and my family are here. So it's one of the, I guess, uh, I grew up here, and then one day I have to study to another place. So I think it is my biggest like challenges because I love my family, and being away from my family, it was very difficult and it was very hard. So I have to cope. I was in another place. I grew up in another place. I don't know the language, so it was really difficult for me to adjust to my studies. So I guess that was the challenges and also the stress. The stress of studying something you have no idea of what to do or what you will become after. So, but anyway, you only have to like focus in studying and study and study until one day you will realize you graduate.
Our third question po is, what's your advice to the children who also wants to be like your job? Who wants to?
Ayaw, anay kaya nakabutang didigay sa trabaho nyo.
Kaya, teacher.
Our third question po is, what's your advice to the children who wants also to be a teacher?
My advice is that make sure that it's your passion, because being a teacher is not an easy job. You have to face children or students every day whom you might like or might like not. So if you really want to become a teacher one day, make sure that it's your passion, because if it's not your passion and you just want to be a teacher just because of the salary, because being in a government or being in a dep ed is good, like I don't know, it's not a high paying job, but here in our place, in our town, it's one of the popular job. So yes, I guess if you really want to become a teacher, you are passionate to do it. You are passionate to teach young kids or young students, because you have to be patient, you have to work hard, even if outside the school you have to work again and again and again and again. It's tiring. I don't want to sugarcoat being a teacher, but it's a tiring job. And if you're just gonna be a teacher just because it has a high paying salary, then you're not gonna last long. In the end, no, you work in the end. If you don't enjoy your work, then you're not gonna be happy being in a teaching profession. So make sure to be passionate of teaching young kids, and not just because I want to be a teacher because of the high paying salary.
Do you think that your job is giving enough salary?
My job being a teacher, honestly, here in the Philippines, no. Because being a teacher should have a high paying salary. Whether you are in a private or in a public institution or school, um, it does not give high paying salary. But as a teacher, you have to be resourceful no matter how high or low your salary. So, about your question, whether it's giving high paying salary, honestly, frankly, my opinion, it's not giving, like, it doesn't compensate at all.
How do you practice self-reflections to identify areas for improvement?
How do I self-reflect to identify the
Areas for improvement.
areas for improvement? Self-reflection. Do I do that? No. Well, how do I self reflect? Sorry. When I feel overwhelmed with my job, I try to isolate myself with everybody, because that's how I manage my stress, my emotions, and how do I self okay, I when I'm stressed or like tired, I meditate. You know meditation, guys? No. So I meditate. So when I'm meditating, because I felt overwhelmed, I meditate, and then after I have to think about my job. I have to figure out where should I work on to improve my teaching. For example, I have students and my student doesn't understand what I am saying at all. So, of course, being a teacher, I will feel annoyed by it, because why does my student does not understand what I'm teaching? So, I have to reflect on that, because that's an area for improvement. So I have to reflect on that and think about how should I be able to fix that. And yeah, I guess I meditate and then think about my job and how should I improve it and fix it for my students to be able to understand what I'm saying, or for learning. Because I'm always my goal every time I am in school, every time I am at school, my goal is for my students to be able to understand what I'm saying, or like learning. So yeah, isolate, meditate, and get back to work. That's it.
What do you love about your job?
What I love about my job is when I see my students learning from me, or learn something from me. For example, I teach a theory or like a practice, and when I see my students that they are doing it or like practicing it on their own, like applying it on their own stuff. So yeah, that's what I love about my job. Just for me to be able to see my student learning from me and learn something from me.
What are the things you do to motivate yourself to work?
What are the things I do to motivate? I watch motivation videos. And then I read, and then I think about my students. Whenever I feel like I don't want to go to school or I don't want to go to work, I'm watching inspirational videos or motivational videos, and then think about my student, thinking that my students are waiting for me and waiting to learn something from me. And so yeah, that's what I do. I just think about my students and then watch motivational video, and then boom, I get up, dress up, and then go to work.
Ensure you are communicating effectively with your coworkers and colleagues.
What are the steps? Sorry, can you repeat?
What steps do you take to ensure you are communicating effectively with your coworkers and colleagues?
The steps I take that I think I am able to communicate effectively with my colleagues is I try to talk to them, like communicate. Because sometimes I have, for example, I am a PE teacher and I have activities that I need, you know, I have activities that my students need to pass. For example, let's say performance that task, whether it's sports, whether it's a dance presentation. So during the duration of the practice that needed for that presentation to happen is a lot. It depends on the students. I know a lot of students need time to practice, to have a good to get a good grades from that performance task. So sometimes I have subjects or teachers that their time. For example, these students use this time. For example, they have English class and they use this time to practice for my subject PE, and that's not good. It's gonna be a complication between me and the teacher of that subject, English. So what I do is that I make sure I tell my students to ask permission first to the teacher of that subject and to me. So I need to tell to the other teacher that, hey, my students wants to practice their dance. Is it okay if we use this time for you? Do you have activities for them that they have to do at this date? And when the teacher told me, no, it's okay, you can use my time, I'm finished with activities, then that's a good communication between me and my colleagues. It will not fire up some complications. So yeah, as a PE teacher, you have to always communicate with your colleagues, especially when you have performance tasks as a project. So yeah, communication. Just talk with your colleagues and ask for their permission.
How do you manage difficult conversation and maintain positive relationships?
I stay quiet. I listen to what other people will say and not just fired up right away. For example, if my colleagues are like saying something bad about me and they confronted me, I have to stay silent and listen to what their point of view and understand their point of view so that it will be easier for me to communicate and resolve the situation, like resolve the problem. So yeah, you don't have to like be angry about it and like say something bad as well. Just have to listen to what your colleagues are saying about you, and from there think about what you have to say or do so that it will the argument will be resolved.
What do you do to stay aware of your own emotions and those of others?
Sorry, can you
What do you do to stay aware of your own emotions and those of others?
how do I stay aware of my emotions? I just like what I said earlier, I meditate and not jump to conclusion right away. I think it will save you lots of trouble if you don't jump into conclusion right away. For example, you have an argument with your colleagues and then you heard from your other colleagues that these colleagues are backstabbing you or whatever. So what you have to do is not fired up right away and like, oh, she told me about this and blah blah blah. What I do is like I try to meditate, and from there I will think about ways or yes, I think about ways how to resolve the argument, the situation, and of course, you should be able to be sensible. As a teacher, you have to be sensible. I think it's applicable to any job. As a person, you have to be sensible of what you're feeling and what the others will feel. Because if you are insensitive kind of person, it will give you a lot of trouble. That's applicable not just in the school or not just in the school, any other working environment that's applicable. You have to be sensible and then do not jump into conclusion.